Title: The Mysterious Book of Hope. Chapter 1: The Unexpected Discovery. Sarah Thompson, a bright-eyed 16-year-old with a heart full of faith, had always been fascinated by the old church in her small town. Its weathered stone walls and towering spire seemed to hold countless secrets, and she often found herself drawn to its quiet sanctuary after school. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves swirled around her feet, Sarah pushed open the heavy, wooden doors of St. Michael's Church. The familiar scent of polished wood and aging hymnals greeted her as she stepped inside. However, something felt different today. There was an air of expectancy, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Sarah made her way down the center aisle, her footsteps echoing in the empty nave. As she approached the altar, her eyes were drawn to a small alcove she had never noticed before. Curiosity piqued. She moved closer, squinting in the dim light. There, nestled in the shadows, was an ancient-looking book. Its leather cover was cracked and worn, its pages yellowed with age. Sarah reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against the rough surface. As she lifted the book, a slip of paper fluttered to the floor. Bending down to retrieve it, Sarah gasped. The paper bore a single line of text in elegant script. "To the seeker of truth, your journey begins here." With trembling hands, Sarah opened the book. The first page bore no title, only a verse. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. Little did Sarah know that this mysterious book would lead her on an adventure that would test her faith, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately strengthen her relationship with God in ways she could never have imagined. Chapter 2: The first clue. Sarah couldn't wait to share her discovery with her best friend, Michael. The two had known each other since childhood and shared a deep bond rooted in their faith. Michael, with his analytical mind and unwavering belief, was the perfect person to help her unravel this mystery. The next day, they met at their favorite spot in the park, a secluded bench overlooking the town's tranquil lake. Sarah carefully removed the book from her backpack, handling it as if it were made of delicate glass. "Look at this, Michael," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "I found it in the church yesterday. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Michael leaned in, his brow furrowed in concentration as he examined the book. "This is incredible. Sarah, have you shown it to Pastor Johnson?" Sarah shook her head. "Not yet. I wanted us to look at it together first." As they pored over the pages, they noticed something peculiar. Interspersed between passages of scripture were cryptic messages and symbols. Some pages contained what appeared to be riddles, while others held intricate maps of places they didn't recognize. "What do you think it all means?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Michael ran his hand through his hair, a habit he had, when deep in thought. "I'm not sure, but I think we're meant to solve these puzzles. Look here," he said, pointing to a page near the middle of the book. The page contained a verse from Proverbs 3:5-6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." Beneath the verse was a riddle. "In the place where faith meets stone, where whispers of the past are known, seek the key that opens the way to truths hidden from light of day." Sarah and Michael exchanged excited glances. "The old church!" they exclaimed in unison. "But what are we looking for?" Sarah wondered aloud. Michael tapped the page thoughtfully. "A key, it seems, but not just any key, one that opens the way to truths hidden from light of day. This is more than just a physical journey, Sarah. I think we're being led on a spiritual quest." As they continued to discuss the possibilities, neither of them noticed the figure watching them from the shadows of a nearby tree. The observer smiled, knowing that the first step of the plan had been set in motion. Chapter 3: The Hidden Chamber. Armed with flashlights and the mysterious book, Sarah and Michael returned to St. Michael's Church that evening. The setting sun cast long shadows across the graveyard as they approached the ancient building. "Are you sure about this?" Michael whispered, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Sarah nodded, her determination evident in her eyes. We have to solve this mystery, Michael. I feel like we're meant to do this. As they entered the church, the familiar surroundings took on a new air of mystery. Every statue, every carving seemed to hold a potential clue. They began their search, combing through every nook and cranny of the old building. After an hour of fruitless searching, Sarah slumped onto a pew, frustration etched on her face. We're missing something, Michael. The riddle said where faith meets stone. What could that mean? Michael paced the aisle, his mind racing. Suddenly, he stopped, his gaze fixed on the stone baptismal font near the entrance. Sarah, look, he exclaimed, rushing over to the ancient basin. As they examined the font, they noticed faint engravings around its base. Cleaning away years of dust and grime, they revealed a series of symbols matching those in the book. This has to be it, Sarah breathed, her excitement building. She consulted the book, matching the symbols to a code hidden within its pages. With trembling fingers, she pressed the symbols in the correct sequence. A low rumble filled the church as the font slowly shifted, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into darkness. Sarah and Michael exchanged nervous glances. Do we go down? Michael asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. Holding their flashlights before them, they descended the narrow staircase. The air grew colder and damper as they went deeper underground. After what seemed like an eternity, they emerged into a small chamber. The room was bare except for a stone altar in the center. On the altar lay a small ornate box. Sarah approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached for the box, a verse from the book flashed in her mind. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9, drawing strength from these words, Sarah opened the box. Inside was an ancient key and a scroll. As she unrolled the scroll, she gasped at its contents. Michael, look at this, she said, her voice filled with awe. It's a map of the entire town, but it's different somehow. There are markings all over. It places I've never seen before. Michael studied the map over her shoulder. These markings, they correspond to more verses in the book. Sarah, I think we've just uncovered a guide to hidden places of faith throughout our town. As they marveled at their discovery, a new sense of purpose filled them. They realized that their journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. Chapter 4. The Keeper of Secrets. The following day, Sarah and Michael decided to seek guidance from someone they trusted implicitly, Pastor Johnson. They found him in his study, surrounded by books and papers, his kind face creased with concern, as they recounted their adventure. Children, he said, leaning back in his chair, what you've discovered is truly remarkable. That book and map are part of an ancient tradition, passed down through generations of believers in our town. Sarah and Michael listened intently as Pastor Johnson continued. Long ago, when persecution of Christians was common, our ancestors created a network of safe havens and hidden meeting places. The book you found is a guide to these locations, each one holding a piece of our town's spiritual heritage. But why has it been kept secret all this time? Michael asked, his curiosity piqued. Pastor Johnson's eyes twinkled with a mixture of wisdom and mischief. Sometimes, young Michael, the journey of discovery is as important as the destination itself. Our forebears believed that faith grows stronger when tested, when one must seek and strive to understand God's mysteries. He turned to Sarah. The fact that you found the book, my dear, suggests that you have been chosen for this task. The journey ahead will not be easy, but it will strengthen your faith in ways you cannot yet imagine. Sarah felt a weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but also a surge of excitement. What should we do next, Pastor? The old man smiled warmly. Follow the map, solve the riddles, and most importantly, keep your hearts open to God's guidance. Remember the words of Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. As Sarah and Michael left the pastor's study, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just two teenagers on an adventure. They were seekers of truth, chosen to uncover the hidden, spiritual legacy of their town. Chapter 5. The first test. Armed with the map and the mysterious book, Sarah and Michael set out to explore the first location marked on their newfound guide. The map led them to the outskirts of town, where an old, abandoned farmhouse stood amidst overgrown fields. As they approached the dilapidated structure, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Do you think this is safe?" she asked Michael, eyeing the rotting wood and broken windows. Michael squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Remember what Pastor Johnson said. We need to trust in God's guidance. Plus," he added with a grin, "I brought a first aid kit just in case." They carefully made their way into the farmhouse, the floorboards creaking ominously beneath their feet. In what once might have been the living room, they found a faded painting hanging crookedly on the wall. It depicted a serene landscape, but something about it seemed off. Sarah consulted the book, finding a corresponding riddle. What seems peaceful may hide strife in this scene of country life. Find the path that leads to light, hidden from the casual sight. They studied the painting closely, noticing subtle inconsistencies in the brushstrokes. Michael ran his fingers along the frame, feeling a slight indentation. With a soft click, a portion of the painting swung open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, they found a small wooden box. Sarah opened it with trembling fingers, revealing a collection of old letters and a small, tarnished cross. As they read through the letters, tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. They were written by a young woman named Elizabeth, who had lived in the farmhouse during a time of religious persecution. Despite the dangers, she had remained steadfast in her faith, using the house as a refuge for other believers. One passage in particular stood out. "Though the world may turn against us, we must remember the words of our Lord. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." John 16:33. Our faith is our strength, and no earthly power can take that from us. Sarah and Michael sat in silence for a moment, humbled by Elizabeth's courage and conviction. They realized that their journey was about more than solving riddles. It was about connecting with the living history of faith in their community. As they carefully replaced the letters and closed the hidden compartment, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. "Michael," she said softly, "I think I understand now why this journey is so important. It's not just about uncovering secrets. It's about learning from those who came before us, who kept their faith alive even in the darkest times." Michael nodded, his eyes shining with understanding. "And it's about carrying that legacy forward. We're part of something bigger than ourselves, Sarah. Something that connects us to generations of believers." As they left the farmhouse, the setting sun bathed the old building in a warm, golden light. Sarah couldn't help but feel that Elizabeth, and countless others like her, were watching over them, cheering them on in their quest. Chapter 6. The Unexpected Ally. As Sarah and Michael continued their exploration of the town's hidden spiritual sites, they began to notice something unsettling. It seemed that someone else was following their progress, always one step behind them. Shadows moved at the edge of their vision, and they often felt watched when they thought they were alone. One evening, as they were deciphering a clue near the old town square, a figure stepped out of the darkness, causing them both to jump in. Surprise! To their astonishment, it was Emily Chen, a quiet girl from their school who had always kept to herself. "I know what you're doing," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper, "and I want to help." Sarah and Michael exchanged wary glances. Could they trust her? As if reading their thoughts, Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, ornate key that matched the one they had found in the church. "My grandmother gave this to me before she passed away," Emily explained. "She told me that one day I might meet others on a similar journey. I think that day has come." Realizing that Emily was meant to be part of their quest, Sarah and Michael welcomed her into their group. As they shared what they had discovered so far, Emily's eyes lit up with excitement. "I've always felt like there was something more to our town's history," she said. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about secret meetings and hidden messages, but I never knew if they were real or just fairy tales." With Emily's help, the group made rapid progress in their exploration. Her keen eye for detail and knowledge of the town's lesser-known landmarks proved invaluable. More importantly, her unwavering faith and quiet strength brought a new dynamic to their team. One day, as they were poring over the map in Sarah's bedroom, Emily pointed to a location they hadn't yet visited. "This place," she said, tapping the "For me, I think I know what it is. My grandmother once mentioned a hidden chapel in the woods outside of town. She said it was only used in times of great need or celebration." Excited by this new lead, the trio set out for the woods the next day. As they hiked through the dense foliage, Emily shared more of her grandmother's stories, painting a vivid picture of a community bound together by faith and perseverance. After hours of searching, they finally stumbled upon a small clearing. First glance, it appeared empty, but as they looked closer, they noticed a pattern in the arrangement of the trees and rocks. Sarah pulled out the book, finding a relevant passage. "Where nature and faith intertwine, seek the cross in branch and vine, in the shadow of the tallest tree, kneel and pray, and you shall see." Following the clue, they identified the tallest tree in the clearing. Standing in its shadow, they knelt and prayed together, their voices blending in harmony as they recited Psalm 23. As they finished, a shaft of sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a section of the ground before them. Brushing away leaves and dirt, they uncovered a small trap door, nearly invisible against the forest floor. With bated breath, they opened the door, revealing a narrow staircase leading underground. As they descended, the air grew cool and still. At the bottom, they found themselves in a small, beautifully preserved chapel. The walls were adorned with intricate murals depicting scenes from the Bible, and a simple wooden altar stood at the far end. On the altar lay another book, similar to the one Sarah had found in the church. As they approached, a sense of awe washed over them. They realized that they were standing in a place that had witnessed centuries of faith, a hidden sanctuary where believers had come to worship in times of both joy and persecution. Emily ran her hand gently over the altar, her eyes glistening with tears. "My grandmother was right," she whispered. "All those stories, they were real. We're part of something so much bigger than ourselves." Sarah nodded, feeling a deep connection to all those who had come before them. "And now it's our turn to carry this legacy forward," she said, her voice filled with determination. As they carefully examined the new book and the chapel's hidden treasures, the three friends felt their faith deepening and their bond growing stronger. They knew that their journey was far from over, but with each discovery they were becoming more equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 7. The Test of Faith. As Sarah, Michael, and Emily delved deeper into their spiritual treasure hunt, they found themselves facing increasingly difficult challenges. Each new location they uncovered seemed to present not just physical obstacles, but tests of their faith and character as well. One particularly trying day found them in an old, abandoned mine shaft on the outskirts of town. The map had led them there, with a cryptic clue that read, "In the depths where light fears to tread, where men once sought earthly treasure, lies a wealth beyond measure. But beware, for faith must be your guide, or in darkness you'll abide." As they cautiously made their way into the mine, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the rough-hewn walls, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of unease. "Guys," she said. "Guys," Sarah said, her voice echoing in the narrow tunnel. "I have a bad feeling about this. Maybe we should turn back." Michael squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. "Remember what we've learned, Sarah. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Psalm 23:4. We've come this far. We can't give up now. Emily nodded in agreement, her face a mixture of determination and trepidation. "We're in this together. God has guided us this far. He won't abandon us now." Taking a deep breath, Sarah steeled herself and pressed on. As they ventured deeper into the mine, the air grew thick and stale. Suddenly they heard a low rumble, and the ground beneath their feet began to shake. "Cave in!" Michael shouted. "Run!" They sprinted back the way they had come, hearts pounding as rocks and debris rained down around them. Just as they thought. They were clear. A final tremor sent a cascade of rocks tumbling down, blocking their exit. Coughing and covered in dust, the three friends found themselves trapped in near-total darkness, their flashlights providing only feeble illumination. "Is everyone okay?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "I think so," Emily replied, while Michael grunted an affirmative. As the reality of their situation sank in, fear threatened to overwhelm them. Sarah felt panic rising in her chest, her breaths coming in short gasps. "We're going to die down here," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Michael took her hand, his voice steady despite the fear she knew he must be feeling. "No, we're not. Remember why we're here, Sarah. This is a test of our faith. We need to trust in God now more than ever." Emily joined them, forming a small circle in the darkness. "Let's pray," she suggested softly. Together they bowed their heads and began to pray. As they poured out their fears and hopes to God, a strange calm settled over them. The oppressive darkness seemed to recede, and Sarah felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the stuffy air of the mine. As they finished praying, Emily's flashlight flickered and died, but instead of plunging them into complete darkness, a faint glow seemed to emanate from the walls around them. "Look!" Michael exclaimed, pointing to a narrow crevice they hadn't noticed before. The soft light was spilling out from it, beckoning them forward. Squeezing through the tight opening, they found themselves in a small cavern. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested an ancient-looking oil lamp. As they approached, the lamp flared to life, filling the cavern with warm, golden light. Inscribed on the base of the lamp were the words, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." John 1:5. Sarah felt a surge of understanding wash over her. "This was the test," she said softly. "We had to trust in God's light even when all seemed dark." Michael nodded, his eyes shining with newfound wisdom. "And by facing our fears together, in faith, we found the way forward." As they examined the cavern, they discovered a hidden passage that led them safely out of the mine. Emerging into the sunlight, they blinked, their eyes adjusting to the brightness. But the real illumination had happened within their hearts. This experience had strengthened their faith in ways they couldn't have imagined. They had faced darkness, both literal and spiritual, and emerged stronger for it. As they made their way back to town, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them with unwavering trust in God's guidance. Chapter 8. The whispers of doubt. As news of their adventures began to spread through the small town, Sarah, Michael, and Emily found themselves facing a new kind of challenge. Not everyone was supportive of their quest, and whispers of doubt and skepticism began to circulate. Some dismissed their discoveries as elaborate hoaxes or the overactive imaginations of teenagers. Others, more concerningly, saw their actions as a threat to the status quo, stirring up old stories that were better left forgotten. One afternoon, as they were leaving school, they overheard a group of their classmates talking. "Can you believe those three?" one boy scoffed. "Running around town, chasing fairy tales and hidden spiritual sites. What a bunch of nonsense. I heard they're just doing it for attention," a girl added, "making up stories to feel special." The words stung, and Sarah felt her cheeks burning with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. She was about to confront the group when Emily gently held her back. "It's not worth it," Emily said softly. "They don't understand what we've experienced." Michael nodded in agreement, but Sarah could see the hurt in his eyes too. As they walked home, an uncomfortable silence settled over them. That night, Sarah tossed and turned in her bed, unable to sleep. The doubts that she had been pushing away began to creep in. What if they were wrong? What if this whole journey was just a wild goose chase? Maybe they were just fooling themselves, seeing meaning where there was none. She reached for the book on her nightstand, seeking comfort in its pages. As she flipped through it, a verse caught her eye. "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." James 1:2-3. Sarah pondered these words, realizing that the doubts and criticisms they were facing were yet another test of their faith. It was easy to believe when everything was going smoothly, but true faith persevered even in the face of skepticism and ridicule. The next day, she called Michael and Emily, sharing her revelation with them. "We can't let what others think shake our faith," she said determinedly. "We know what we've experienced, what we've seen. God has been guiding us every step of the way." Michael's voice was filled with renewed vigor. "You're right, Sarah. In fact, this opposition might be a sign that we're on the right track. Remember what Jesus said in Matthew 5:11-12. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven." Emily chimed in, her quiet strength evident in her words. "And we're not alone in this. Think of all the believers throughout history who faced far worse than a few mean comments. They stayed true to their faith, and so can we." Encouraged by each other's words and the wisdom found in Scripture, the three friends felt their resolve strengthen. They decided to continue their quest with even greater dedication, knowing that every challenge they faced was an opportunity to grow in faith. As they hung up, Sarah felt a peace settle over her. She realized that this journey was about more than uncovering hidden sights or solving ancient riddles. It was about growing in faith, supporting each other, and standing firm in their beliefs even when the world doubted them. With renewed determination, she opened the book and map, ready to face whatever adventure and whatever opposition lay ahead. For she knew that with God's guidance and the support of true friends, they could overcome any obstacle. Chapter 9. The unexpected revelation. As Sarah, Michael, and Emily continued their quest, they found themselves drawn to an old abandoned library on the edge of town. The building had been closed for years, its windows boarded up and its once grand facade now crumbling and overgrown with ivy. According to their map, this site held a crucial piece of the puzzle they had been trying to solve. As they approached the building, Sarah felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. "How are we going to get in?" Michael wondered aloud, tugging at the chains securing the front door. Emily, who had been examining the perimeter of the building, called out, "Over here. I think I found a way in." She had discovered a small window at ground level, its boards loose and rotting. With some effort, they managed to pry the boards away and squeeze through the opening. Inside, the library was a maze of dusty shelves and forgotten books. Beams of light filtered through cracks in the boarded windows, illuminating swirling motes of dust. The air was thick with the musty smell of old paper and neglect. As they made their way through the stacks, Sarah consulted the book. The clue mentioned something about wisdom hidden in plain sight and the truth that sets you free. Any ideas what that might mean? They searched for hours, combing through shelf after shelf of ancient tomes and crumbling manuscripts. Just as they were about to give up, Michael called out excitedly. "Look at this," he exclaimed, pulling a large leather-bound volume from a shelf. "It's a Bible, but there's something different about it." As they gathered around, they saw that the Bible was unlike any they had seen before. Interspersed between the familiar verses were handwritten notes, diagrams, and what appeared to be coded messages. "This must be what we're looking for," Sarah breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. As they carefully leafed through the pages, they discovered that the annotations were a record of their town's spiritual history, documenting the trials and triumphs of believers over generations. But more than that, it contained wisdom and insights that seemed to speak directly to their current journey. One passage, written in faded ink next to John 8:32, caught Sarah's attention. "The truth that sets us free is not just knowledge, but lived experience. Each generation must discover anew the reality of God's love and grace. This journey you are on, dear seekers, is not just about uncovering the past, but about bringing faith alive in the present. As they read on, they began to understand that their quest was about more than just solving riddles or finding hidden sites. It was about experiencing God's truth for themselves, about making the faith of their ancestors real and relevant in their own lives. Suddenly they heard a noise from the front of the library. Footsteps echoed through the dusty halls, growing louder as they approached. "Quick, hide!" Michael whispered urgently. They ducked behind a large bookcase, hearts pounding. As the footsteps drew nearer, they heard a familiar voice. "Sarah." "Michael." "Emily? Are you in here?" To their astonishment, it was Pastor Johnson. As they emerged from their hiding place, the old pastor's face broke into a relieved smile. "Thank goodness I found you," he said. "I've been following your progress, hoping you'd make it this far." "You knew about all this?" Sarah asked, a mix of confusion and awe in her voice. Pastor Johnson nodded, his eyes twinkling. "I've been the keeper of this secret for many years, waiting for the right time and the right people to pass it on to. When you found that first book, Sarah, I knew the time had come." As they sat among the dusty books, Pastor Johnson explained how each generation had a responsibility to keep the faith alive, not just by preserving old traditions, but by discovering God's truth for themselves. "You three have shown remarkable courage, wisdom, and faith on this journey," he said proudly. "You've faced challenges, overcome doubts, and grown stronger together. That's what this quest has always been about." Sarah, Michael, and Emily exchanged glances, a new understanding dawning in their eyes. Their adventure wasn't ending. In many ways, it was just beginning. They had been entrusted with a precious legacy, and now it was their turn to live it, out and pass it on. As they left the library, the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. Sarah felt a deep sense of purpose and belonging. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, armed with the wisdom of the past and the living faith of the present. Their journey had taught them that the greatest mystery of all was not hidden in ancient books or secret places, but in the ongoing discovery of God's love and truth in their everyday lives. And that was an adventure that would never end. Chapter 10. The Continuing Journey. In the weeks that followed their discovery in the old library, Sarah, Michael, and Emily found their lives transformed in ways they had never imagined. The wisdom they had uncovered and the experiences they had shared had deepened their faith and strengthened their bond. With Pastor Johnson's guidance, they began to share their journey with others in the community. At first, they were met with skepticism, but as they recounted their adventures and the truths they had learned, people began to listen. They organized a youth group at the church where they could share the excitement of discovering faith anew with their peers. Sarah was amazed to see how their stories resonated with others, sparking a revival of sorts among the young people of the town. One evening, as they were wrapping up a youth group meeting, a shy girl named Rachel approached. "Them, I've been listening to your stories," she said hesitantly, "and I was wondering, could I join you on your next adventure?" Sarah, Michael, and Emily exchanged smiles. "Of course," Sarah said warmly. "This journey isn't just for us. It's for anyone who wants to discover God's truth for themselves." As word spread, more and more young people joined their group. Together they explored the town's hidden spiritual sites, deciphered ancient clues, and most importantly, discovered how to apply the timeless truths of faith to their modern lives. They faced challenges along the way, of course. There were still those who doubted, who dismissed their experiences as youthful fantasies. But the friends had learned to stand firm in their faith, supporting each other and drawing strength from the scriptures. One day, as they were planning their next expedition, Emily brought up a point that had been on her mind. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about all we've learned. It's amazing, but I can't help feeling that we've only scratched the surface." Michael nodded in agreement. "I know what you mean. It's like every answer we find leads to more questions. But maybe that's the point." Sarah's eyes lit up with understanding. "You're right. This journey isn't about finding all the answers. It's about growing in faith, about learning to trust God even when we don't have all the answers. She pulled out the Bible they had found in the library, turning to a page she had marked. Look at this passage from Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Our ancestors didn't have all the answers either, she continued. But they had faith. They trusted in God's plan, even when they couldn't see the whole picture, and that's what we're called to do too. As they discussed this revelation, they realized that their adventure was far from over. In fact, it was a lifelong journey, one of continual discovery, growth, and faith. In the months and years that followed, Sarah, Michael, and Emily continued to lead their group, exploring new sites, uncovering more of their town's spiritual heritage, and most importantly, helping others discover the living, active faith that had so transformed their own lives. They faced trials and triumphs, moments of doubt and incredible breakthroughs. Through it all, they held on to the truths they had learned, that faith was not just about knowing but about experiencing, that community was essential to spiritual growth, and that every generation had the responsibility and the privilege of discovering God's truth anew. As they grew older, they began to mentor younger seekers, passing on the wisdom they had gained and encouraging others to embark on their own spiritual adventures. The mysterious book that had started their journey became a symbol of the ongoing quest for truth, passed from one generation of seekers to the next, and so the legacy continued. The story of Sarah, Michael, and Emily became part of the town's spiritual lore, inspiring future generations to seek, to question, and to discover the timeless truths of faith for themselves. Their adventure had no neat ending, no final puzzle solved or ultimate treasure found. Instead, it was an ongoing journey of faith, a continual unfolding of God's plan in their lives and in the lives of those around them. As Sarah often reminded the group, quoting from Philippians 1:6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Their quest had taught them that the greatest adventure of all was not found in solving ancient riddles or uncovering hidden sites, but in living out their faith day by day, trusting in God's guidance and helping others to discover the incredible journey of faith for themselves. And so their story didn't end. It continued and continues still in the lives of all those who dare to seek, to question, and to discover the endless mysteries of faith. For in this journey, every ending is just new beginning, and the adventure of faith is one that never truly ends.